type thing, then I'm like,
and I think that was like, she still wasn't feeling well, so it was like if she was, then it would have been different. But there you go. There we are.
No, it's good talk. Good talk. Welcome, episode 227, Bournemouth, and our first ever Europa League game. Less said about it, the better. No, I'm joking, but I'm not also not joking. Welcome, Craig. Welcome, Robin. Adam is out today, so it's just the three of us. How are you both?
Yeah, very good. Very good.
Much better after that last 45. I'll give it that. But yeah, very well. How are you?
Bad. I've had COVID for like 4 days, and as someone who was absolutely brutalized by long COVID the first time he had it, and feeling that resurgence coming back, feels real bad. But we're here, so we'll have to just crack on, and hopefully just resting a lot will help. But yeah, De Zerbi's Brighton and Hove Albion does not help the heart rate whatsoever, does it? Europa League football Thursday night. Let's talk about that first, obviously, for obvious reasons. How were you feeling about that night as a whole? From you guys, Robin, you obviously weren't able to make it either.
No, I wasn't able to make it. No.
What was the atmosphere like through the television presentation? Like, how was it watching a Europa League game from the Amex? That kind of weird, out of place.
Yeah,
feeling.
it was really bizarre. Obviously, you got the sort of, you got all the sort of the added extras of the sort of the fireworks. I'm going to call it, the sort of the fire show, as it were, before kickoff. Seeing all the Europa League kind of banners and sort of advertising around. I'll be honest, it sort of didn't really sink in. It's a bit of, you're right, it's a sort of a weird out of body experience. Atmosphere wise, you could really feel it before kickoff, and at the start it was really loud, and then textbook Albion punctured by an early goal, and then I said on the group chat, like, it sounded pretty dead after the first goal went in for a while, until the penalty, really. But yeah, it was, to be honest, I'll put my hands up and go, I was unbelievably arrogant about how Thursday night was going to go before kickoff. Like, I just didn't. A loss was sort of inconceivable. I'd already kind of just chalked it up to a win, which is really bizarre because I'm normally, like, I'm so well schooled in what we tend to do and how these things tend to go, that it's like the one time I've ever let myself get caught up in it. But yeah, it was textbook, absolutely textbook Albion. And I'd say, like I said in the chat, I've sort of mellowed a lot since, and it's, I just come back to it is in one sense glorious that we were able to display our back catalogue of just carnage on a global scale. It was just, in a sense, you shouldn't have expected anything different.
I think a lot of it was just, there was a lot of anticipation, really, and I think it was more of a celebration before kickoff, right? That this was actually happening, and I don't know about a lot of people. I can't speak for a lot of people, but just when we did make the Europa League, it didn't really feel real until you start getting into the draw and you start seeing these black and orange images with Brighton on it and stuff like that, and it's very strange. So I guess a lot of it was pre-game, a lot of that celebration and anticipation of us doing well, because it was, like Robin said, sort of inconceivable to us that it wouldn't go the way, because it felt so good and it felt so surreal that it kind of needed that fairy tale first win. But in a true blue and white fashion, it absolutely doesn't happen. And yeah, it just, a number of normal, typical Brighton things happened during that game. And it is what it is. I think ultimately we'll go through it a little bit more, but it's still got 5 games of the group stage to go.
Yeah, I think ultimately we can probably sum up the entire Athens game with this is what happens without Lewis Dunk in the Brighton side as it pertains to conceding those goals. First goal, as you say, Let's be fair, it was an absolute belter of a header, like outrageous, like suitable for the European stage. If I've ever seen a goal suitable for the European stage. But I think you're right, Robin. The crowd after that, dead silent. But it was quite interesting to see the Greeks go absolutely silent too. As soon as we bagged our penalty, it felt like they were like, oh no, like we know what comes next. We know what this team is capable of. And they were in great voice whenever they were winning. But it was interesting to see such a passionate and great like away following just go dead silent as soon as they conceded. So it's not just the Albion. It does make me feel a little bit better about it when they're that mental, and then as soon as they let in a goal, they're just like quiet. But yeah, that first goal, great header. And I mean, what a terrible start, really. Like a set piece again. This is going to be a problem, isn't it, under De Zerbi, with or without Dunk? But without Dunk, it was like a school day out there.
Yeah, it was. I mean, Matoma, it depends. I mean, Matoma's obviously just not picked up the man, but you could argue, I'm not necessarily sure he'd make that much of a difference. Like the physical mismatch there, the AEK player probably comes out on top, and if he can deliver a header like that, then like as much as I'm sort of blaming Matoma for just not doing anything. At the same time, I'm not sure the result would have been hugely different if he had got involved.
Oh yeah, this is a superb header, isn't it?
There's just hold your hands up, just go. It's an absolute, and it's from it's just. I think it's the fact. It's that combination of it's from miles out for a header, and the power. Like it just looked like it shouldn't have been a header. Like if you didn't see where the ball originated, and you just saw the power of it and it hit the back of the net, you're not guessing that's a header.
I mean, to be honest, he had enough space to take it down, take 2 touches, and probably put it in the top corner anyway. So, like, there's that too, where, as good as a header it was, he's completely free within the penalty box in a corner, and we can talk about our defending of set pieces until the cows come home. But it isn't good enough. Regardless of how wondrous the header was, I still think you need to challenge that and at least put him off a little bit. So, can I appreciate how good the header was? Yes, but do I think our defending should be better at every single corner that we defend? Also, yes.
Yeah, it was not great. Although we did get some fun refereeing. Clearly, it's not just the Premier League that suffers from a lack of quality referees, because it clearly can be worse, because it's probably one of the worst reffing performances I've ever witnessed at a Brighton game.
And that's saying something.
We're talking like League One, League Two levels of incapable. Like it was horrendous. And we kind of should have seen the way it was going just in the first 10, 15 minutes with some of the like outrageous decisions he was making. But it was kind of the beginning of the crest of stupidity began with him booking João Pedro for a dive. I was very fortunate to be literally tunnel visioned onto that exact point where he was clipped. And there was no doubt in anyone's mind from our angle that the contact was there, and it was a stonewall of penalties you're ever going to get. So when the yellow card came out, it was probably the most annoyed I've heard the North Stand in a long time. And when VAR intervened, it was like, okay, there's no, like everybody around me was just like, that's it. We've definitely got a pen, because we all know what we saw this time. Like none of that biasness of the fans where you see like a 50-50 ball go out for a goal kick or a corner and you'll claim it anyway. Like it was the most obvious pen you've ever seen in your life. So for them to make him go over, watch it, give it, and have to rescind the yellow was just wonderful. And losing Alexis McAllister, I turned to Britt on the night, like losing Alexis McAllister, there's a lot of reasons to be sad about him going, but the biggest one for me, and I said it on this pod too, was like, it's a stupid one, but like losing such a cool penalty taker. We had such an issue with penalties for years before Alexis decided he was going to be this like ice in his veins pen taker. And I thought, God, we've got rid of him. Like he's gone. What is going to get? Like, we're going to have another merry-go-round of idiots trying to take penalties. It looks to me like João Pedro is going to be the guy, isn't it? Because the first pen, absolute ice in his veins. Europa League, first ever game, both for him and for the team, in front of the North Stand. What a finish! Like what a pen.
Yeah, agreed. I mean, he's another one. You're exactly right. I've had, even in early days of Alexis taking them, you have that feeling where it's like it's almost a surprise if they score. That's where we were. And with João Pedro, it's the opposite now. Like, I am as convinced as you can be with a penalty whenever he steps up that he's putting in the back of the net.
I still need a little bit more. If I'm just going to be an absolute pedant, but like, yeah, I think I'm so used to Alexis McAllister and it being such a sure thing that he needs a couple more before I can watch them. I'm horrendous with watching penalties, honestly. I know people love them, but I have to turn away like De Zerbi does.
No, I don't blame you. It's a horrible one. And within 10 minutes, we were back behind from yet another set piece disaster class right before half time as well. Couldn't have come at a worse time. And again, it's one that I don't think happens if it's marshaled by Lewis Dunk. I just don't think that there's that much chaos in the box with a better, well-marshaled defense. And we go in at halftime, 2-1 down, and you think, okay, like, team talk is going to be needed here. I think you said it, Craig, like hairdryer treatment. 70% possession we had in that first half. But frankly, I think we can all agree Athens had the much better chances, didn't they?
They were good. They were good. I think we said about in the chat as well, just being a little bit maybe starstruck by the occasion, because it was like there's just a little bit of nothingness happening. Like, we had the ball, but we weren't really creating anything. And then Athens had an amazing game plan, obviously. They're a good team. So, yeah, it was, that first half was really frustrating. Just, all bark and no bite.
Yeah, it was. I mean, like we said in the chat, I mean, they are our absolute kryptonite on paper, aren't they? Like, in terms of very physical centre forward, a team that's very quick on the break, that defends very deep when they go in front, and is very, very good from set pieces, both attacking and defending. I mean, those are like, you look at like West Ham, the only Premier League defeat this year. It's it's Everton whenever Dominic Calvert-Lewin is fit. It fits the mold. Brentford when Ivan Toney's in them. That is it. If you are trying to beat us, then those are the four things you really need. Have a physical guy up top, be quick on the break, get in front, get a goal in front, and then just defend really deep. And 9 times out of 10, we will struggle to come back against that.
Sean Dyche is winning trebles in Greece, isn't he?
Yeah, he is. He absolutely is. It really is. But I mean, it's difficult because I think I read their XG was like just over 1 for the game as a whole. And yeah, I mean, that you're right. That second goal, chaos is the way to describe it. I mean, I think it's quite fortuitous that it ends up in the back of the net. Like, I think there's an element of luck in there, but we did ourselves no favors, as you say, with just chaotic lack of organisation. And you're right. I'm with you, Josh. I think if Dunk is on the pitch, I don't think that. Well, you still might have the fortuitous event that ends up in the back of the net, but I don't think the lack of organisation is there, and potentially there's a different outcome. But yeah, I think there was an element of luck about it.
I mean, it's quite normal when you miss your captain, right? It was just, surely there's just, we talk about this spine of the team and having this very sort of these solid 3 or 4 players that play every game, and that's going to change this year. It has to change this year. One of the people that you'll always look to on the team sheet is Lewis Dunk, and it shouldn't be a surprise to anyone that the defense is a little less relaxed and a little less confident without the skipper in it. We've become so accustomed to him.
I thought he would have gone for Webster, given the level of experience. But then Igor's played quite a lot of European football. But it's a big ask that to come out for your full debut in the club's first European game is a bit of a baptism of fire. But having said that, I mean, I'm not really over Webster's performance against West Ham yet, so De Zerbi's probably the same.
There's the question, right? And that was one I wanted to bring up later on, but like, let's do it now, really. Igor making his debut. I don't know about you, Craig, but like, I thought he was really good. Like,
I thought he was good.
So comfortable on the ball.
I thought he was good. Yeah. There's this trepidation because we haven't seen him before, right? And so like there's naturally that hesitancy. But on the whole, I thought he was really good. I think the disjointedness comes from our just sheer ineptitude at set piece defending, right? And I think you're, to a degree, I think what we're saying is that Dunk is a little bit more assured and marshalling the rest of the defense and making sure that they're doing what they're doing as the captain. It doesn't mean it's a poor reflection on Igor whatsoever. I'm not saying that Dunk should have been in for Igor. I still thought Igor was very good. He's very calm. I like progressed the ball really well. Like just, I didn't have a bad thing to say about it. It's just those set pieces just ruin us.
Yeah, he's massive, ain't he, as well? Like
he is massive,
just an
small tank.
Unit.
It's going to be fun to watch with the amount of yellow cards that he gets. Like there's going to be. I mean, he had to make that tackle that he got the yellow card for in the second half. Like he has. That's just the stereotypical take one for the team. He had to do that. But yeah, I think given a run of games, he's gonna. There's a little bit of Shane Duffy about him. I'm getting those kind of Shane Duffy vibes. But hopefully on a bit of a higher level than that. But I think he's the sort of player that, there's going to be some crunching tackles, and there's probably going to be some moments of total madness that end up in a red card. But can't wait.
I mean, if he can have half the career that Big Shane had as a Brighton player at this level we're now at, go. Like, absolutely love that. Like, I'm here for it all day, every day.
Like he is, if he starts in a Palace game like that, it's going to be, and he's wound up. So you get the player that he's the stereotypical, like you can tell, like if he was a wind up toy, you're going to be winding him up and someone's just going to be in his ear, giving him the lowdown of what these games are like. And it's just like, finish winding him up and just push him out onto the pitch. And that is going to end up in just potential for chaos. And I'm absolutely here for it.
Well, he's just going to snap someone in half, isn't he?
Yeah, basically. It's a shame that Zaha's gone, because that's the kind of battle where just like he could just catapult Zaha like over the West End. But that's
the problem. That's why you're glad that Zaha's gone, because like we've had a few players like that, and that's where Zaha gets off on it, right? Like he loves the hot-blooded stuff. It's when he came up against ice cold Veltman that like he totally melted down. He didn't understand.
He's not bothered.
he didn't understand. Like he just ripped him apart mentally, physically, emotionally. Like he just and then Zaha promptly left the Premier League. Like it can't be a coincidence. Like Joel
Veltman's bullied him out, isn't it? But yeah, back
second penalty though, real quick. Second penalty. Do you agree? Second penalty as well?
Yeah. It's 100% a penalty. Like it's another one where I couldn't. Both of them looking at it first time on the TV without a replay. You just go. It's a penalty. Like
it's right up the other end for me. So like it's absolutely crap having to look at it from my end. But from the TV perspective, it sounds like, because I had a couple of other friends watching it. It sounded to me like it was pretty cut and dry. Craig, do you think that was the case?
Yeah. It was. It's a horror show from the centre back, just letting it roll and just lost control of it. So yeah, it's another penalty. It's one of those mistakes that allows us back into the game. Again, we're talking about a good team, right? So we kind of needed that extra penalty because I didn't see where the goals were coming from otherwise. So yeah, it's a nailed on penalty. It's a mistake by the defender, and João Pedro gets his second. It's quite simple, isn't it?
Yeah.
Good pen as well, wasn't it? Again, another good penalty from Pedro. It always worries me a lot more when a keeper and a striker are going against each other for a second time for a pen. I've always feel a lot more trepidation. Do you two both feel that way, or is that just like a thing in my own head?
No, I do, 100%. And the commentary mentioned it. In the UK, commentary mentioned it about the difficulty. They were saying, which way is he going to go? And Adam Virgo was actually on co-commentary for what is it TNT, whatever BT's called these days.
Sorry,
Like-
Craig, do you get the same commentary in the US?
I don't think so. So
I was just really curious if Adam Virgo was warming the airwaves of
blasted
Chicago
across Texas. Yeah.
But
Yeah.
So they were talking about. So Adam Virgo was on it, and like kind of giving his opinion of, all I can think. The only penalty I can think that Adam Virgo took was the shootout against Swindon, where it basically just crept under the bar. Like he just got so far underneath it. So I was thinking, I'm not sure where you are in terms of being able to give penalty advice. But yeah, his opinion on that one, he was like, well, just blast it down the middle for the second one. That was basically what he said he would go for, because it's like, then it takes out, because the keeper's kind of second guessing. Is like, right, is he going to go the same side, whatever it is, you're going to go the opposite side. And I think what he's getting at is it's like down the middle, although it's the most obvious option in terms of what the keeper's thinking, is probably thinking he's not going to go down the middle. But yeah, it is, you're right, Josh. It's not just in your head, it exists in my head as well.
Well, it's that sort of like, mind games, isn't it? I think João Pedro just went the same side that the keeper went the first penalty. So, one of the things you're taught is just make your mind up early and don't change it, because that's when you miss, right? So just pick a corner and put it in it. He just seems to be very good at it. Like I say, he needs one or two more before I think it's a rubber. But yeah. Then you're talking it's 2-2, right? And you're going, right, let's kick on. It's like you got a fair amount of time left. Like let's go and win the game. But yeah.
And we did kick on. 81% possession, 92% pass accuracy, 4 shots, 3 of them on target. We just absolutely battered them for the next 10, 12 minutes.
Yeah.
Until Ezekiel Ponce promptly hit us on the counter attack in standard Sean Dyche Brexit ball fashion, and just did exactly what we were talking about, a totally mixed up, out of sorts defense all over the place. Had no idea who was tracking who, what man was whose. Tariq Lamptey massively outstrengthed by the player for the ball in. Both centre halves had no idea where they were going. Like everybody was just caught miles off guard, and it was just a simple finish, really, in the end.
Very lucky.
And by that point, it was
it's a lucky goal as well, though. Like to come back, Steele makes a really good save. It's that Ward-Prowse one, isn't it? It's almost a carbon copy of it. But it's another one. Like I'm sort of not detracting from any of the errors, but 2 out of their like on another night, 2 out of those 3 don't go in. So I'm not gonna
I think
I'm not
Stephen's
throwing them
probably.
on the bus too much.
I think Stephen in the chat is probably right. He says that, when we go to Athens, it will probably end up being a 3-1 win to the Albion, and like that wouldn't shock me at all. I'm not frightened by this team, even though they've just dicked us 3-2 in our own place in our very first game. Like I still am not coming away from there going, "Oh man, we've got no chance at Athens." Like,
as a whole, I'll be honest. As a whole, I didn't think they were especially good. Like as a team, like they were really good from set pieces, and they took that counter attack very well. But like over the balance of 90 minutes, do I think they were good? Like, yeah, I didn't think they were amazing. I just think it was one of those ones where they executed certain situations really well. They took advantage of the fact that we were a little bit disorganized in defense because Dunk's not there. There's a little bit of luck. But yeah, it's not one of those ones where, we've a really good team has rocked up and battered us 4-0. Like that game is, I still think like probably 7 or 8 times out of 10, you play that game and we win.
But that's the experience coming in, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. I agree.
That's just Athens knowing the game and knowing European football better than we do, and that's absolutely normal considering that's our first ever European game. So, they're a good team. I think like we said at the start, I think the general consensus is that we should have enough to put this team away, and I still believe that. I think the majority of people do, but it's one of those, and we got completely West Hammed by. The champions of Greece, and it's okay. Like my own thoughts and my own opinion is we've got 5 more games to go. We still have to play them, and I think to Josh's point, I think we'll do well against them away from home. So who knows? But I think it's it's a very steep learning curve, this European football, and we will learn from it. And as we've seen from today as well, we're quite good at bouncing back this year.
And can we also can I make the point again? I just never want to see James Milner at right back ever again.
You took the words out of my mouth. Yeah, my next point was going to be players that really weren't at the level that we hoped they would be. And the first name that was going to come out of my mouth was, God love him, James Milner filling in at right back again. We have Tariq Lamptey, we have Joel Veltman. We know both can play there. Like, please stop. Like, I don't know what the idea is behind this. Like, it's just bad. Like, when he came on, and I think it was against United that we talked about it, like, that's exactly what we want James Milner to do. Come on late at like left back, right back, centre mid, whatever. Come on late in a game that we have decent control over and see the game out with the experienced head of someone who's done it all before. If you're going to start him in the centre of midfield if you have to. Yeah. That's the only place you want to see him start for me. I don't want him anywhere near those fullback positions because he is just so slow and he's just dropped a beat. And like, that's okay, but like, it's just bad.
Not having it.
It's not good. I tell you who else I thought was off it or just never really got into it. And I think it's going to be a controversial one. But I heard some unbelievable hot takes at the end of the game that I can't wait to share as well about him once I've asked you about him. But Craig, what did you think of Ansu Fati's full debut?
Bang average. I don't think he did that well at all. I don't think he did anything glaringly stupid. But you're looking at a very hyped player, right? With a very good pedigree already at the age of 20. So your expectations are probably quite high. But didn't do enough for me in that sort of 10 role. Looked a little bit lightweight against an Athens team that was pressing really high and physically very strong. And I think he just struggled against it. We'll come on to, I guess, Bournemouth a little bit later, but I think against Athens, it just wasn't enough. I think he got out-muscled quite easily and was at a loss at what to do.
I think it's tough. I think it's very early to make a decision on him. I think he's clearly, obviously, still learning the De Zerbi style. I can see why they threw him in at this stage because obviously he's one of the few in the squad, despite his age, with a decent number of European starts under his belt. I mean, isn't it like he's the Champions League's youngest ever goal scorer, isn't he? I think still. So I mean, I can absolutely see why you'd throw him in based on his level of experience. But yeah, I mean, he's still learning the style. I thought he had a couple of situations where he stitched play together really well. He's always got his head up looking for runners. So yeah, I mean, I'm with you. In terms of a performance, it was very average, but so was basically everybody else other than Billy Gilmore. So I'm not gonna be too upset about it. And like you said, Craig, coming on today, I thought he was better today when he came on. I mean, I think he's going to get better and better as time goes on. But yeah, I'm certainly I'm not going to be throwing him under the bus at this point.
Yeah, I mean, he is. That some of the hot takes was overrated hype job should never have bothered with him, and he shouldn't ever be starting in place. Someone on the train said that they would rather have Danny Welbeck start every game than Ansu Fati after that. And I mean, it's just
to be honest, that
person levels of punditry.
Like, that person shouldn't be allowed out in public on their own. Like to be able to find the train, like they should have someone with them at all times.
Yeah, it's scary, isn't it?
Yeah, that's scary, just bonkers. Frankly. Let's be honest. Like this is like we've said. There are very, very few teams in world football that play the style that we play. Like there just aren't. So, however good a player you are, you're dropping him into this system where he came on, he played 20 minutes against Man United, half an hour maybe, and then he's in for the next game, and there's this expectation that because of his pedigree, he's going to come in and just, immediately hit the ground running. It's just there is no player that is going to come into that system, despite, but even if you come from a system like Barcelona where, you are very comfortable on the ball, etc., like nobody is coming in and mastering this system straight away. I don't care who you are. It's just not going to happen. And people need to, and yes, he's got high profile and he's achieved a lot considering he's only 20, but he's still someone who's coming into a brand new system that virtually everybody else in the squad has been used to or getting used to for the last year. So I think people just need to temper their expectations of him, and that's not because he doesn't have the ability. It's because you need to give him time to get used to the system, and that's the same as anybody else.
Yeah, I think we'll see him grow from strength to strength, and we'll talk about a little bit of that growth from today's game as well. Moving on to our group mates, Craig. How did you enjoy the news that Marseille and Ajax basically went to war against each other in the other games? And then just to follow it up as well, further reaction on the fact that anybody hoping to get a ticket to Ajax, best hope there's a stadium left to go back to, because today's game at Ajax has been called off due to their own fans just destroying everything.
They were 3-0 down, I think, weren't they?
3-0 down to Feyenoord. There's some incredible scenes on Twitter if you want to go find it live, like as we're talking to the people that are watching this. Like, go look at the shit that's going on in Amsterdam right now.
We have drawn two teams who are like, you couldn't have got. Like, there aren't many more mental teams that we could have gone. I mean, I was looking at some of the footage of Marseille and Ajax fans. And yeah, I mean, that away trip in 10 days' time is beginning to look. I mean, I'll be honest with you. I'm flying in. I land about 4 or 5 hours before kickoff, and I'm out 10 a.m. the next day, and that already seems like it's going to be too much time in Marseille.
It's wild. These two teams are nuts. So, like, one is sending death threats to their president and their manager, who is willing to quit, and the other one is abandoning their own games when they're losing to the champions.
It's mad, isn't it? But that is proper. Like, it's just like, it's the pinnacle of what we always think. Like, have this vision of what like European football is like, and in your head you're like, it's basically littered with examples like this. Actually, it's not. We just happen to have drawn the two teams where the stereotype is actually borne out.
Yeah, the entire thing is in disarray.
I think,
yeah, wild.
Yeah, but yeah, them drawing, them on a kind of practical note, them actually drawing 3-3, them drawing is actually the only positive point from the other night. It doesn't leave us adrift.
Yeah, agreed. All right, so on to Bournemouth then. There was a fair bit of expectation, I think, because I think, as you said, Craig, we have a habit of bouncing back when we get beaten under De Zerbi. I don't think we've ever lost 2 in a row under De Zerbi in league football after the first kind of post-Chelsea, basically. Cheers, Graham. I don't think we've ever lost 2 in a row since then. Obviously, he had a brutal start with the games that he had. But after that, I think we've just rolled through teams if we lose. And today looked like it was going to be a bit of a change in the agreed proceedings for the first 45 minutes. Not the first 46, but the first 45, didn't it? Lots of changes, 9 changes, but from the Europa League side to the Premier League side. De Zerbi talked about desperately wanting depth to be able to compete in all competitions. Well, this lineup that rolled out today was 9 changes from the Europa League. Certainly looked like a competitive side, in my view, on paper. Obviously, Evan Ferguson, probably not over whatever hit him Thursday, given he was subbed off pretty sharpish at half time. I suspect he told the boss that he wasn't feeling as well as he thought he was, which can do it to you. But something of note, Buonanotte getting a start. A player that was almost quite adamant he wanted to go out on loan to get game time because he didn't think he was going to get any. Gets his first start. And Verbruggen back in goal, and Dunk, who nobody really knew what was going to happen with him after being out on Thursday, because they really kept it really quiet as to what was going on with him. Was back in the starting lineup as well. The assumption was that we were probably going to do pretty well here. And for the first 25 minutes, it almost felt like we had just carried on from the Athens game, where we were trying the same stuff we usually do, but everything just felt a little bit off, didn't it?
Yeah.
Go on, Nick.
And I think it's a European. I think you're right. I mean, comes back to what Craig said. When we talk about the Athens game, which is a lot of this comes by the nature of having to make a lot of changes, and we're going to have to do that. Virtually game in, game out, whilst we're fighting on every front, and that's something that is very new to us. That number of wholesale changes every game. I mean, was it like 7 changes between Man United and the Athens game? And then you've got 9 changes today. So if you think about that, you've got all sorts of combinations there that either haven't played together very much, might not have played together at all, haven't played together for a few weeks, etc. So again, I'm kind of willing to forgive not the rustiness, but more the fact that things aren't quite going as smoothly as they might. I think an awful lot of it is simply due to the number of changes, and we have to be on board with the number of changes if we're going to compete in as many competitions as possible. We just have to accept that that's going to happen. And I come back, it's similar to my answer for Ansu Fati, which is it's going to get better and it's going to get easier to do the more the players get used to it and the more these different combinations play together.
It's not easy to do. We talked about this summer, just the amount of depth that we have now. And we look at the bench and you see like 7 or 8 names that could easily start for us. And you're going, wow, what a star-studded bench. Like, how do we keep everyone happy? This is how we keep people happy, by making 6 changes for European games, making 9 changes back into the Premier League. But they all need to be on the same wavelength. They need to be able to put a performance in to the level that we're used to with a regular and consistent 11. You make 9 changes here, so like 2 players stay from 3 days ago, and you're expecting that same high level of performance, and naturally this stuff has to dip. Something's got to give, because you can't just be at that level Thursday, Sunday, unless you make these very severe changes. So today was obviously expected. I didn't think I'd see 9, but I thought there'd be some rotation. But yeah, and like Josh said, it felt like we just carried on from the 90th minute from Athens. It was just quite lethargic, really. And we didn't really have a lot of answers, or maybe the impetus that we needed to drive forward. And credit to Bournemouth in that way as well, because I think their press in that first half was really good too.
Steely knows how it feels, and now so does Bart, being the victim of De Zerbi's adamant tactical style. It was always going to happen. It is going to happen 2 or 3 times a season. We roll with it. We're fine with it. It happens. We know what we're sacrificing to do this. De Zerbi almost definitely had nothing bad to say to Bart at halftime. I'm sure he was like, continue doing what you're doing. I'd rather you concede like that than not do what I want you to do. But he did fall victim, and we did concede a bit of a comedic goal within the first 25 minutes from Dominic Solanke, of all players, of course. It feels like every player that's like a bit of like a hype job or like question marks around him always seems to like revive himself against us. Calvert-Lewin every year is like at a point where everyone's like, is he a bit of a hype job? Like, is he just a bit shit? Hat-trick every time. And Solanke enjoyed the same performance today. And from then on, like all the way through that first half, really, it didn't get much better, did it? Like, we dominated the ball, but like, again, like it seemed like if there was going to be a team that scored until that last like 2 or 3 minutes when we turned it on, it was a bit of a worrying day. it looked like Bournemouth were going to do this, didn't it?
Yeah, it did. It was exactly that. It was, the ideas were there, and it was just like, it wasn't quite coming off for whatever reason. And you're right, it felt like it was hurtling towards one of those days where, you know, we could play for several weeks without scoring. It was very like, it's kind of sort of early days of Graham Potter vibes. I say not early days, I mean pretty much Graham Potter vibes up until the last 12 to 15 games. Graham Potter vibes. You know, we felt that kind of everything was, all the ingredients were there, but they were just being put together in the wrong order. So yeah, I'm with you. I thought it was hurtling towards that. And you know, then we get, you know, like you say, we turned it on for the last couple of minutes, and you know, we get a bit of fortune, you know, with an own goal.
I appreciated for Broggan channeling his inner Casper Ankergren as well in that first half. That was something that I guess still does have, but we don't see it as often, where he just stood on the ball for what felt like an hour. But yeah, I agree with you both. Like, it's one of those things, you know, De Zerbi won't be too upset with it, right? It's how we play. It's part of what we do. And sometimes those things happen. It is what it is. I think the fan reaction, or maybe the stadium reaction, was not as nice as maybe everyone else's was. But you have to accept that those things happen in order to bait this press and do what we do. You have to take those risks, and sometimes it doesn't work, and that's okay. As we can see today, it's perfectly okay, because we're averaging 3 goals a game. So it is what it is. But that first half, yeah, left me, well, I just sort of longing for some actual attacking options. It felt like the one thing in that first half was fizzing unplayable balls into Ferguson and hoping that somehow he has glue on his right foot, because it just seemed an utterly impossible task to someone that A, might still be ill, and B, it just trying to field unplayable balls in that respect and trying to play it off around the corner when it's being pelted at him at like 50 miles an hour. I just felt like it was a tough day for him, and I guess, yeah, logged off at half time.
Yeah, I mean, you just posted it in the chat, Craig. De Zerbi was not a happy boy today. And you just mentioned the word lucky a few times, and he's mentioned it too. He's happy because we're happy for the result, but today we played one of the worst games of his time here. I mean, that's as damning as it gets, isn't it? 2, 3, or 4 times we were lucky, and we were. That own goal to round off the first half that essentially provided us with a clean slate was very fortunate, wasn't it? Because I wouldn't say we deserved to go in at halftime 1-1.
No, definitely not. But you know, it's nice. You know, we've had plenty of games where we haven't had the luck go for us. So it's nice. You know, I'm never gonna complain when we get a bit of fortune swinging back. You know, we've had plenty of games where, you know, we've been hit on the count. You know, we've dominated teams and we've been hit on the counter attack, and you go, well, there's no justice in that. So you then, on the flip side of that, you have to accept. You know, you have to gratefully hoover up the slices of luck when they come your way.
Yeah, didn't deserve it whatsoever. But you know, the more chances you make and sort of those bits and pieces, sometimes you do get that slice of fortune. It's gone enough against us that we're probably due 1 or 2 from the bank. So going in at half time, and it's a completely different game now, right? You just watched 45 minutes of us not doing anything really, but at the same time Bournemouth were creating, but nothing too crazy. We kind of just gave them a goal as well, so it kind of evened itself out in the first half. So you're then right, second half we have to change something, has to change, and we saw that.
And you know,
yeah,
I was going to say the good thing is that, you know, we've talked about in fact that, you know, when we go behind, we find it very difficult to win. I mean, we've literally seen that, you know, 3 days ago against Athens. So the nicest thing about today is, you know, coming back and proving that wrong almost immediately. You talk about,
Yeah.
you know, we tend to come back, you know, like when we lose under Zerbi, we tend to then come on strong the next game. Obviously, we've done that today. Well, the result, we've done that today, and we've managed to, you know, reverse the circumstances that happened the other night. So from that perspective, it's very satisfying.
Yeah, and to say De Zerbi's pissed off is probably a bit of an understatement. I mean, that's a pretty damning statement himself. One of the worst games he's ever managed for us after winning 3-1 is something. And yet you can probably say it's thanks to De Zerbi himself that we got the result we did. We've given him a bit of stick once or twice when he has basically put together a bit of a tactical disaster class when it comes to starting formations or lineups or substitutions. And today's were outright game winning, like within seconds game winning, because I hadn't even got into the living room again, like before that goal was in. Mitoma and Fati on, a sick Evan Ferguson off. I expect we probably won't see him until Villa. I won't be surprised if he starts against Villa, though. If Welbeck is going to lead the line, probably against Chelsea, which would be the right call in my view. But Ferguson off, Buonanotte off, and Fati and Mitoma on. Not a terrible substitution duo to come on at half time, is it? No. I mean, like, if you'd have told me like 3 years ago that was going to be our like viable substitution duo, like 3 years ago, like I would have thought you're an absolute crackhead. Like, where did you come from? Like, where are your meds? Like, you need to go back and like figure something else out. Like, do you need money? Like, do you want me to get you some food, a bed to sleep in tonight? Like, you're mental. So for that to happen, and then within 26 seconds, I think it was, Fati to get the ball, knock it into Dahoud, who pops it out, like just a beautiful touch as well to Mitoma, who does have glue on his feet, it feels like half the time, Greg, just pops it into the far corner. Helped in by one of their centre-backs, I think, but it was going in either way. So I expect that goal to be kept on his record. But what a start to the second half. That was like outrageous. Right in front of the North Stand, exactly how you want it to go. The atmosphere changes immediately. And from then on, it felt like a very different game altogether, didn't it?
Yeah, it did. It's kind of how you'd want it's sort of how you want us to be starting the first half. I mean, not necessarily with a goal after, 26 seconds, but
just every half then, really.
Yeah, basically every half. That was kind of, you go, okay, where's this team been, for the last 130 minutes of football? But let's say, it will be fine. It will be fine. It showed immediately that, it's still there. For anyone thinking having a bit of a wobble, it'll be fine. It's still all in the locker. It's going to come out.
Yeah, wild substitutions to make, right? And you've already got a dinger on the field as well, like, and you then bring on Mitoma and Fati and makes an instant impact. I think the longer that game would have stayed 1-1, the harder we would have found it. And I think it just made things so much nicer. I wouldn't say easier, but it made things a lot nicer for us, knowing that you've got that goal early doors, and that's what we wanted. And then you can dictate the game from here. I think one of the things that we're always worried about going down a goal is the fact that the whole tempo of the game changes. It's that you then you can't bait anymore because they don't want to. You kind of have to push and break through that block that they do have. So being able to go up and then get them to chase is exactly what we want. And I think that's why for Brighton, the first goal or being a goal up is so clear as to what the result is going to be. And I know there's sometimes where we've conceded a late equalizer, it is what it is, but under De Zerbi, I feel a lot more assured when we're a goal up, and when we're able to dictate the tempo and dictate the play of the game and what we want to do and shift people where we want them to be, and just in that respect. So getting that goal early doors, 17 seconds in or whatever the Jeff it was, like in the second half, you then go, right, I feel 100 times better because I know that most of the time this is what's going to happen, and that's where De Zerbi's at his finest.
Yeah, our system,
crazy, isn't it?
It's built for being 1-0 up, isn't it? Like, if we could start every game 1-0 up, then we would very rarely lose. I know that sounds slightly daft, but you know what I mean? Like, our system is, our system is built for being 1-0 up and having teams needing to come out, as you say, Craig, be able to bait the press because they need to come out to us. So it's either you get teams like that, and I think that's why we have such a good record against the traditional top six, because they are the teams who will almost straight away going, okay, we're better than these. We're going to come out and we're going to go for them. And that's when we sit there, bait the press, and, away we go. So I think that's why we've got such a good record against them. And then it happens when, the lesser teams, when we're a goal in front, need to come and do the same thing. So, yeah, it was nice. And I think, that Bournemouth at home last season was quite frustrating, wasn't it? I mean, Matoma got the winner quite late on, I think, didn't he, in that game? But you're right. If that goes on, if we stay 1-1 for the first, 15, 20 minutes of the second half, then you very much think this could go the same way with us knocking on the door and either not being able to get a winner or conceding something on the break. So, yeah, I mean, it's perfect to get the goal then.
It's a far cry, though, isn't it? Like you say, like from the Houghton and Potter days where like you almost like dread going a goal up because you're just like waiting for the inevitable equalizer.
I definitely did under Potter. Yeah, like it always felt like that 4 minutes after we scored was just a barrage. And
yeah, you need to keep it 0-0 until literally the last conceivable second.
Yeah, like because we sure as hell ain't scoring more than one. Like,
yeah, exactly.
Right, like it's crazy. But kept it under control at that point. A couple of substitutions were made. João Pedro came on for Danny Welbeck. Thought he played really well. And in the moment, I think everyone was very curious about, given the incredibly tepid responses we've had since signing him in terms of he's a baby. We need to really slowly bleed him in. Like we probably won't see him for quite a while, all this sort of stuff. The debut of Carlos Baleba came on for Mahoud Dahoud. And it was a bit of physical presence that we really needed in the middle of the park at that point in the game. And he certainly looked the part, very big, strong-looking individual. But what he was going to offer was, who knows, right? Like he's a 19-year-old kid that's made like 12, 18 stars in League One, like whatever it is. Well, I think it was about 2 minutes into his debut. He was responsible for a double tackle that directly led to the third goal. This kid looks as calm and composed as one would ever imagine. Just outrageous. What unbelievable debut for Carlos Baleba. No, I can't imagine that he will be as slow bled into the team as De Zerbi has hinted at after that 18 minutes of football that we just watched, because that kid looked as composed as it gets, like Bissouma and Caicedo-esque, like already.
Oh yeah, 100%. And that is, it seems mad given the fact we've won 4 out of 5 or 5 out of 6 games, whatever it is in the Premier League, that despite doing that well, it is, the missing Caicedo piece in the jigsaw is, was clearly still there. So to see him come out and, as you say, demonstrate attributes of both Bissouma and Caicedo pretty quickly, I'm with you. He is going to be into the team pretty quickly. And, it's early days, but on paper, the idea of a Gilmour and Baleba partnership in central midfield has the potential to tick so many boxes.
Oh, it's wild. He's 19, right? He looked twice the size of every other player on the TV. I have no idea why, but guys clearly built different, right? But yeah, you couldn't ask for more from a cameo, right? He got 15, 20 minutes, but just that combative style defensive midfielder that brings that physicality and just changes the way that double pivot should work. Do I think there's a tiny bit of chaos in there? Yeah, but that's probably a good thing as well, right? Just him charging down the keeper and the 2 centre backs as one of the defensive mids, that's I'm all for it as well.
Yeah, we're here for that.
But yeah, so he looks depart, right, you also have to bear in mind we did pay quite a lot of money for him, right? And it's sort of this isn't one of those bring him in, develop him, and sort of eventually sell him on for a world record fee, which might still happen, right? This is, we've spent £23 million and he needs to make a difference pretty quickly. So that's sort of where my brain is at, is that obviously he needs to come in and know the system and learn the system, but I think he's going to pick it up pretty damn quick. And I think there's a lot of evidence there today already.
Yeah, and the man on the score sheet again. No, I don't think he will. Do you?
Gross and Dahoud for me.
Yeah, it's difficult. Like it'll be interesting. I mean, we've got the potential for an immediate comparison if Caicedo's playing for Chelsea. You've got the potential to see them up against each other straight away.
Imagine if he snaps him.
Can you imagine?
Both ankles.
Yeah. Or Caicedo does the reverse and is immediately, a bigger villain than he is. But no, I think it'd be interesting. I mean, it is on paper. You think it is the game. It is the game. If you're going to give him a start over the next few games, this is probably the one that you do it in. Are you going to throw him in for a first start away at Villa? Probably not. Are you going to do it away at Marseille? Probably not. So if you're going to get him in, if we're following the logic of we think he's going to be bled into the team faster, for me, the Chelsea game is the obvious one where you put him in.
Yeah, no, I get that logic 100%. Like, I think if you're going to start your Milners, your Welbecks, your Lallanas, then I think it's a great opportunity to start your Balebas, your Buonanotte again. Like, I think that's where you play those players. Like, maybe you're a Dinger again, like, just to keep him going. Like, because I don't think he'll be playing on Saturday against Villa with Solly back. Like, I think that's where you allow those players in. And coincidentally, it also gives players like Pascal Gross a much needed rest, right? Like, he then gets what is essentially like 10 days off between the Europa League and Villa, which is probably sorely needed for the international break kids as well. So I would personally love to see him start. I would love to see that midfield of like a Milner, Lallana, Baleba midfield group, like Lallana in the 10 and Milner and Baleba next to each other, and just allow him to be coached through the game. And like, if he fucks up, like, okay, that's all right. Like, we're all right. Like, it's just a shitty cup game anyway. Like, it doesn't matter. This team is like a £1.3 billion team. Like, if it doesn't matter, like, it will be okay. If we beat them, they are like the laughing stock of the entire like football pyramid anyway. So like, it's a win-win situation. It is like
as a side point, they were dreadful today. Dreadful. Like, that's another. Like,
I haven't seen anything of it, but I did enjoy the result.
I had it on. I had it on. I was sort of flicking between both, and they say they could have played, like, they just could have played for weeks without scoring, like, just dreadful. And actually, I was looking at thinking, what kind of team are they going to put out on Tuesday? And then I look at the number of, or Wednesday, I look at the number of injuries they've got, and I look at the bench they put out today, and I genuinely don't know, for a team that spent £1 billion. I don't know what sort of team they're going to put out on Wednesday. I think they're going to have to put out a pretty strong team, just because they haven't got many other options, which, considering they've signed basically everybody and they've spent £1 billion doing it, is wild.
Well, they're a shit show at the moment, aren't they? They are, but I think, but you go there on Wednesday and you play a team that you want to beat them and probably beat them quite convincingly if they're going to put out something half-assed. But I think back to, I guess today, I think the only other bit I had was just like, I don't know how Matoma keeps scoring these headed goals, but it's just something in his locker that is so underappreciated, or I'm sure it's appreciated by now, but I don't think as much, that he's able to slip between two centre-backs and nod home multiple goals with his head, alongside being one of the best wingers in the league / in the world. The fact that he has that in his locker as well, it's a special player. It really is. Like, if he's not on the wing putting the cross in, he's in the middle nodding them home. It's wild to me that someone can make such a difference to a game like he did today. I thought he was incredible.
I thought that he probably had one of his worst ever games for us against Athens as well. I think he needed today. And my God, how much did he deliver? And I'm sure mentally in his own head, he knows what that performance was like on Thursday. Like, he knows, like, he's not an idiot, right? Like, he's clearly a very smart individual. Like, he knew what that result was like and what that performance felt like for him. So for him to come on for 45 minutes and do what he did, and I'm 99.9% sure he will not be factoring in at Stamford Bridge on Wednesday, right? Like, I can't imagine that we would be playing him. So he probably knew that he was going to get a week's rest after this 45 minutes of football, and to bag twice. And like you say, Craig, like, he just keeps scoring headers, like, and it was a beauty as well from his bestie, Estepinian, on the left-hand side as well, who really does have a nasty delivery as well, doesn't he? Like, we are such a better side with Estepinian in it.
When he's playing well after his last couple. But yeah, I mean, I think I was going to the only other thing I had to touch on, which is what has been mentioned in the chat by Arctic Temper, which is a great name, was what I posted in our chat immediately that the team came out, which is Ferguson and Welbeck together, which is something we've dissected on a couple of occasions and come to the conclusion that it's a shit idea that doesn't work. And today we had, 45 minutes further evidence that it doesn't work and it should be booted into the bin as swiftly as humanly possible.
Would you rather have James Milner starting at right back for the rest of the year, or Welbeck and Ferguson starting up front for the rest of the year?
Milner at right back.
Ooh, that's
we score like we may concede more, but not having those two up front, we'll score more. So we'll probably end up winning every game 4-3.
No, I think I'll go the other way. I think Veltman at right back instead of Milner. The Ferguson Welbeck thing can work. And this sounds really horrible. I just don't want to see Milner at right back. It doesn't work for me. For 90 minutes, it doesn't work. That's my caveat. For 90 minutes, it does not work. For him, for 15 minutes to shore up a game at right back and see it out, that's exactly what we should be using James Milner for. Either that or coaching people through a defensive mid display, right? If he's at right back for any more than 70 minutes, then it's not great. And it's no reflection of the player. I just think he's 38 now and he shouldn't be playing 90 minutes against the left winger.
Yeah, I mean, you're not wrong. But we ended the day with a win. We needed one after the European problem. A lot of teams come away with a European hangover. It's not easy to go Thursday, Sunday, and keep getting results, especially when you get beat in the first one, right? Like, it can throw the rhythm off horribly. So for us to have now come back and won again, and we are still the highest scorers in the Premier League, by the way. And I think you posted the fact in the chat, Craig. I don't know if you wanted to share it as well with the stat from Opta Joe.
Oh, yeah. Oh, hang on. I think it was 5 wins out of 6. So I don't think a media top, like out of the top 6 has done that for a good 15, nearly 20 years now. So you got 6 games. We should have beat West Ham. So we're sort of in this vicinity of 5 wins, 1 loss. That loss kind of hurts still as well. So this is the level that this team is playing at. And you've gone and made 9 changes here. You go and make 6 changes at Old Trafford. You go and do this and that, and it's working, right? So that's one of my key takeaways from today was the first 20 minutes, the first half an hour looked dull and really didn't help, but we kind of got away with it. And then we turned it and cranked the screw in the second half. That with 9 changes and bringing on the people that we have on the bench is why we're doing so well. First half aside, and the Athens thing aside, which is a little bit of a starstruck and a little bit of a baptism of fire of European football, what a start to the season.
Yeah, agreed. Outrageous start. We are 3rd in the league right now. We cannot be caught by anybody who is left to play. Because I think it's only tonight, right? It's only the Newcastle game that's currently
Newcastle,
ongoing.
Sheffield United, isn't it?
And I think
Sheffield United getting stuffed at the moment. This half time when we're recording this.
What's the score?
They're 3-0 up at half time.
Oh,
Jesus.
I mean, as a very slight tangent, I thought Sheffield United were going to do all right when they first got promoted, and then they started selling all of their players and signing no one, which seemed a really bizarre approach to the Premier League. But
the Sander Berger one to Burnley tells you everything you need to know about Sheffield United.
Yeah, exactly. That was it. From a personal point of view, I am going to my first game of the season on Wednesday night at Stamford Bridge, which I'm looking forward to.
Lovely.
Yeah, it'll be good. It's a nice warm up for Marseille away the week after that. And yeah, it's just typical. Like I've got to fly from Edinburgh to Marseille. So on the Wednesday, I've got to get from the northeast to Edinburgh. And it's like the one day where they've announced a train strike. So I've got to get a coach got a National Express coach from Newcastle to Edinburgh. It's fine. It's what we do. But yeah, it's just the one day in the coming months where they've arranged a train strike. So
gross.
But anyway, yeah, I look forward to Wednesday. As I say, I hope it was from a sort of selfish point of view that I hope they start Belabor just so I can sort of see him in the flesh, just chopping Chelsea players down left, right, and centre.
Yeah, I watched. Talking of the bottom three, I watched Burnley for the first time properly yesterday, and I've never felt more confident of murdering a team in my life before. This Burnley team, like I'll go on record now, like Brighton are going to destroy them. Like it is going to be bad for Burnley Football Club playing against us. They are. If De Zerbi could build a team that is picture perfect to him to take apart. And like everyone will like Burnley podcasts are listening to this and clipping this shit. But like they are us, but way off it compared. Like we are going to rip them to shreds. Like it is going to be bad because they are built perfectly for us to tear them apart.
And the irony is,
like, wait until December. It's going to be bad.
Like Burnley Mark 1, right? Original Burnley is the opposite.
Like, yeah, they are.
that is the like a Burnley Mark, like a Sean Dyche Burnley, falls into the kryptonite category, without a doubt. But let's see. I'm with you. In theory,
they're us, but 4 years ago, and like that's bad. That's bad for us. For them, like we're the sort of team.
But I think they'll take that though. Right. It's such a weird sort of, I guess, it's a weird compliment for us and sort of brown nosing ourselves, right? But like I think they'll take that and go right. They made a very good transition from being utter Dyche ball to a very possession based side. They managed to do it in a year and win the championship, and that's impressive. That's good.
I think they have to stay up this year, though. I think if they don't stay up this year, then they then revert? As we record this, they're bottom of the table with a -9 goal difference. I still think out of the 3 promoted teams, they're the ones that stay up, obviously. But there's more to come from them. But yeah,
I've got a good question for you both, actually. But first of all, I do just want to say that for the 23-24 season, Together BHA is sponsored by Green King Sport, where football is more than a game. Green King Sports venues are showing every televised Albion fixture over the course of the season. So that means Aston Villa are away next week. So instead of turning to the internet for a dodgy stream like I had to today, get your mates together and get down to your local Green King pub and get closer to the action. Green King Sport have just recently launched their own Instagram page, which we have shouted out on our Instagram as well. They will be home to fan content, deals, competitions throughout the season. If you guys could drop them a follow, you won't just be the first to know about all this, but you'll be helping out us as a podcast as well. Because every help that you give them means that we're able to give you fun stuff. So that would be much appreciated. On to the fun question. Sheffield United, Luton, Burnley, all bottom of the league, all of them on 5 games played. Except, Sheffield United are about to hit 6, but get hit for 6 as well. All on one point. I can't imagine Sheffield United are going to change that anytime soon. Which of the 3 are going to get their first win, fellas? Who is going to be the first team of that 3 to get off their 0-win record so far? I'll give you a bit more context as well. Sheffield United's next 3 are West Ham away, Fulham away, Manchester United at home. Luton's next 3 are Everton away, Burnley at home, and Tottenham at home. And Burnley's next 3 are Newcastle away, Luton away, and Chelsea at home.
Yeah, Burnley win that Luton game.
You think? Feels like they might get shithoused.
Yeah, I think Burnley are going to get proper football managered by Luton, for those familiar with that kind of terminology, which is that they'll end up with an XG of like 3 or 4. They'll have about 25 shots on target, and Luton will score from a set piece in second half stoppage time to win 1-0. So yeah, I'm going Luton to win that Burnley game.
You watch, it'll be a 0-0 draw with like no shots at all, flat out. Like 95% of the ball is in the middle third of possession. Just nothing happens. I will say, like, every team, I think, coming out of into their first season of a European campaign have a little bit of a worry, don't they, that will go the way of other good football teams that find themselves in a relegation scrap. We are incredibly blessed that this team's bottom group are so shocking this year that we have nothing to worry about. Like, it's got to be the worst. We said this last year, but like, I think they've outdone themselves. Like, it is a significantly worse crop of teams this year than last year even. Like, the bottom 3, as you say, essentially regressed as a team. Sheffield United and Luton weren't Premier League ready in the first place. They're just happy to be here. Sheffield United sold all their good players, and Burnley are playing a style of football that is horrific to debut in the Premier League with. So, like, as a 3, they're incredibly weak. Everton have like transitioned from bad club to hilariously bad club. Like, and there's teams around them as well that like haven't particularly improved at all either. Like
Wolves haven't. I mean, we said Wolves have got rid of 3 or 4 really good players and replaced them with not very much.
Bournemouth are playing some good stuff, but just like Burnley, like, it's a horrible style for Areola to try and implement for a team that are right down there. And similar to Potter at Brighton, right? Like, it's going to work out eventually, but you've got to get a little bit of luck staying up that first year. And there's no way that both are going to get lucky, right? One of them's going to get bit. It's a bad bottom 5 or 6 teams in this Premier League this year. And I mean, unironically, like, genuinely, Chelsea are in that conversation currently, because I have not seen a more cursed team in a long time. Like, have you, like, genuinely?
It's so funny. Like, I know they've got injury issues and stuff like that, but there's no excuse for over £1 billion and still have 5 points from 6 games, and just with no European football either, right? They've got no other competition to focus on right now, and they're still messing it up. A red card for Gusto today whilst Reece James is not fit. Like, it's like, what's going on? Like, everything is going wrong. Couldn't happen to a nicer club.
Only Burnley and Luton have scored less, and they've both got games in hand.
It just, everything that can go wrong is going wrong at the moment. And let's hope we pile on the misery on Wednesday.
Yeah, you're not wrong. All right, fellas. Anything else before we wrap? All right, sounds good. Well, we've got Wednesday night, obviously, against Chelsea in the Coconut Cup. And then we have a very early kickoff for you guys in the States. It's the brutal ones. I hated them so freaking much on the East Coast. Big shout out to you West Coasters getting up at like 4 a.m. to watch these bad boy games, because it sucks enough getting up at like 7 on a Saturday to watch them. But we got Villa away on the Saturday, and we will be back sometime next weekend to talk about them both. Robin, would love to hear your verdict once you got there and had your day out at Stamford, night out at Stamford Bridge. And I will be at Villa. Are you at Villa?
No, I had to prioritize Marseille over Villa.
That's fair. That's fair. So we've got coverage at the next 3 games, basically, which is lovely. So we will be back this time next week for chat around the cup and the league. And hey, we could be in for a crazy situation next weekend if we beat Villa again. Because I mean, 18 points from 7 games is pretty nuts. I mean, we're already pretty nuts. 15 points from 6 games is just absurd. So enjoy the ride, guys. Like Robin said, like, don't worry. Like, we're going to be all right. There's never a point in time, even when we make stupid decisions like Bart did today, where I think the wheels are ever going to fall off. Like, at this point, like, I really don't. We could have lost today and I still wouldn't feel that way. Like, it's crazy. So we will see you next weekend. Have a good week. Look out for yourselves. Be safe out there because COVID is running rampant and I'm very sad. So have a good one.
So chisel.